When you don't have a trust, your whole estate process is public, it's messy, it's expensive. So anybody that's been through probate says, I never want to go through that again. So you want to make sure you set up your estate to be right. And that's your exposure. So again, this money is not money in your pocket, it's money in your estate's pocket. Okay, that's the tax. From a transition or exit strategy standpoint, this is based on 65 years of exiting at the age of 65 years, monthly retirement income of 10,000. Client's age is 49. It'll be 16 years till they exit, 24 years of retirement. Okay, so right now, the funds they need in retirement are 4.5 billion. That's what they're going to need to be able to retire at 65. Today, they have a liquid net worth of $12,000. At their present rate, by the time they're 65, they're going to have $58,000 in the bank. Okay? If they do transition planning, exit planning, they'll have 4.4 million. The whole difference is, profit is residual. Treating profit as your number one expense and structuring accordingly. Making profit, making results repeatable. That's the whole key when you have a structure for a minimum mandatory profit. You tend to have predictable results and repeatable results. As opposed to being hit or miss, because it's very hit or miss right now. Profit is left over. That's the whole reason for putting something like this in. And when you have predictable results and they're consistent, it builds the value in the company. So the difference is tremendous. Okay, so then to have a census memorandum. So it's just talking points for your TAVIS tax plan for that. So what I used to do is just take my red pen again, and I would just kind of underline or mark a couple things that I want to mention. Reading this and just covering them up with all this stuff, it's not gonna make them go. Tax, we sell tax because clients want to save on tax and they want to protect their assets. And if you get into the dry stuff, it's not sexy. They won't. It's not going to help you get a go. You don't have to know tax code to get a tax go. You just have to be able to present the illustration, and then you'll learn things as you go. Okay? You don't need to answer questions about tax because that's what our tax group does. So anyway, you don't have to be a tax expert. So I'll mention a few things from here. Sorry. Okay, and then this is the TAVIS assurance that the client will realize the savings. They have to implement the savings. So they have to complete the consulting engagement and the client's implementation of strategies and recommendations considered in the tax strategy report. So they do need to implement to get the value. Okay, then I've got my outline, my findings and recommendations. I've made it specific to the client, and I'm gonna review the things that were specific to them. I've got my recommendations. The problems list, some people like to use that kind of in lieu of an outline as like a closing tool. You could do that. Preliminary project implementation report. I didn't use this myself in the field, but some analysts do like to use it to show kind of where we'll start, whatever. This is the assurance letter, okay? So this is this should be used. So the way I would talk about this is this is your 2-to-1 assurance, okay? So it is a no-brainer that if I accept you as a client and we work with you and you follow what's put in place, that you will get a return on investment. I can easily substantiate a 2-to-1 return on investment. And that's what this is about. And if at any point something, if you're on track and you're not on track to get your 2-to-1, then you can contact client services. So this is our this is our assurance. Okay, if you want to become a client, you have to get through the 10 commitments. I need to be convinced that you're committed to change. So it is the second to last qualifier. Yeah. They should say yes. I want to be a client. Okay. It is a closing tool. I'm kind of closing them that way. If you want to be a client, you have to get through the 10 commitments. Okay. So, you wouldn't. The nice thing about the 10 commitments, it's the segue to the working agreement. So if you run into trouble here, you can still recover. Okay, so my primary goal or goals. So what are your goals? What do you want your business to be? Okay, that's what we're talking about there. I'm going to read the thing first to them. I'm 100% committed to achieving my goals. I'm 100% committed to working with the consultants and implementing systems and procedures that allow me to succeed. I will be 100% committed to the proposed project. I always used to tell them, with most problems, there's more than one solution. Solution A may on paper appear to be the perfect solution, but for whatever reason, it's not going to work here. So then we go to solution B or solution C. The whole goal is to get a group of solutions that you will follow. When you follow your solutions, you'll get your return on investment year over year over year. It's not a one-time thing. I recognize for the length of the project that I will be expected to participate in the process. I recognize that I will be very busy, but I also know that the consultants recognize that I have a business to run and will never jeopardize its success by pulling me away from my daily responsibilities. I'm 100% committed to paying the consultants for the services. Although I may have concerns about the amount of money involved, I know that the standard practice is for an invoice to be paid each Friday. I also know that the consultants will never demand anything that threatens my business. So what that means is we don't put our patients on the operating table, cut them open, and let them bleed to death. That's not the purpose of the project. So what happens is if a client has cash flow challenges, okay, like many of our clients do. Why? Because they wait to get help till till it hurts. Okay, so every client that we work with is going to get a cash flow management system at some point if they don't have one. If they don't have cash flow problems, they'll get it later in their project. If they have cash flow problems, they'll get it early. The cash flow management system tells them it's a check and balance. It tells them it shows it's a check and balance to show real profit, not paper profit. It takes the stress out of managing cash flow because it looks forward 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever. It shows a bank, it shows vendors you have control over your cash flow. So it's a vital tool for running your business. Okay, so we'll give them the client a cash flow management system, and within that we'll map out this is how we can work the client's project into cash flow without hurting them in the process. Consulting has a marvelous tool to do that. So we know exactly what it's going to take to run a project, and then it's going to tell us what it's going to take. How much can a client cash flow? So it's very, very excellent. I know that if I am unhappy, no matter what the reason, then I have to contact my project manager immediately, and that my project manager will immediately respond to my concerns. I recognize that successful change is a journey rather than a destination and requires a willingness to change. Willingness to make positive change is contagious. If I expect my employees to change, I must lead by example, and I personally need to be 100% committed to the project. And I understand employees measure my level of commitment. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and say, okay, what are your goals? I'm being assumptive. Okay, I don't say, well, do you want to become a client? Get them to fill out their goals. Okay, Because at this point, I don't have any reason to feel like they're not going to want to be a client. So the best thing I can do is forge forward. Okay, because you want to control this. So what are your goals? Have the client fill them out, and then get them to initial each one. Okay. Do this as a closing tool. Don't give this to them the first day. Don't give it to them. Do it as a closing tool. If you do it too soon, it's the timing problem. Okay, don't give this to them the first day. If you start forcing commitment when you walk in, you're going to blow up. Okay, so they have to go through everything to understand what's going on with their business to get to the point where this absolutely makes sense, right? Okay. Okay, so then I get them to sign it, and I set it aside. I don't sign it. Okay, the last pre-qualifier is our working agreement. It's very simple. I'm going to go through it with you. I'll read it to you. Okay, I'm putting you down for 200 hours of consulting and a tax project for $18,000. I'll talk about those when we get to those. Okay, so and then I'm going to read this. Okay, for the valuation, I'm just going to scratch it out or stroke it out because I'm not recommending evaluation at this time, so it's not relevant. The TAVIS, I'm going to read the TAVIS. Like I said, I'm putting you down for your TAVIS is going to be $18,000. You're going to get a great return on investment with all the savings that I showed them of 100 and some odd saving, 100 and some odd thousand over the next 5 years, plus the estate, plus the asset protection. And then the consulting, so 200 hours, organization for management and financial controls. We're going to start Monday at 8 a.m. Okay. I'm being assumptive. I can't start tomorrow, Friday, but I will start Monday. We will start Monday. I'm going to read that. And then once I've gone through all that, I'll have the client sign. Do you have any questions? Okay, so initial in each place where it says client initials, initial in each place. And then you need to sign, title, date. Then once I get you accepted as a client, I'll do the same. Okay, then they sign it, right? Now, do you ever get any pushback or anything like that? Of course, you're going to get pushback, right? So you are going to get that. So you just have to deal with it. Money's always a concern, So 200 hours at $325 per hour is $65,000 plus expenses. Your return on investment is easily substantiated because we have $190,000 in problem costs. So we can do our part. When you do your part, you will get a tremendous return on investment, and the same with the tax. So you are going to get some. Well, what about this? What about that? Okay, but that's okay. You can just work through it. With the money, so I never said don't worry about the money, or I probably did when I was new, and I found out that was not a good thing to say, because if we say don't worry about the money, we're selling them. Okay, so what I would say with the money, it's a joint challenge. You and the project manager will figure out how to work it into cash flow in a way that makes sense without hurting you in the process. And so when I talked about that, we will never demand anything that threatens the business. I can always go back to the 10 commitments. And I am 100% committed to paying the consultants for the services, although I may have concerns about the amount of money involved. I know that the standard practice is for an invoice to be paid each Friday. I also know that the consultants will never demand anything that threatens my business. Okay, so we're not going to demand anything that threatens the business. So it's a bit of a leap of faith, but we're not going to hurt them in the process. And then you have them sign date. Then I'm gonna call for traffic. It's Sherry Crimble for traffic. Hi, I'm here with Morris and Janet Jeffries. I'd like to make a recommendation for them to become a client. We have reviewed everything in their business in the last 2 days. I have identified all kinds of missing potential. They want to get control of their business. They want to get control of their life. They want to be able to go on vacation, and they want to take a better paycheck, and they want to be able to have something to retire with in the not so long future. They are committed to change. They've assured me of that. They've been very cooperative through this survey. They're excited to make changes. I have a project recommendation for a project starting Monday at 8 a.m. We're going to focus on organization for management with financial controls and also for tax planning so that they can protect their assets and minimize their tax liability, which they will have with profitability. And so then you don't have to be that fluid because you're not going to be when you're new. But then, as an SSC, I'm going to say, okay, absolutely, based on your strong recommendation, you may countersign the agreement, and we will look forward to working with Morris and Janice starting Monday at 8 a.m. And then you're going to sign, and then you want to send in all 4 pages to me, okay, to your SSD, cam, scan, send, like right away. Right away because let me check it, make sure everything's in order. Also, if it's during assignment times, I want to go post your go while Tyler's making assignments. So, we want to make sure that, so you send it in right away, and then you're going to give the client consulting services questions and answers. It's policy that we give them this. The last thing you do is you collect the survey fee. So even though we print the invoice on the first day, we collect it at the end. We also collect any deposits for the tax or valuation if we're going to get one. In a case like this where they're hemorrhaging cash, I probably wouldn't try to collect a deposit. I would instead say I'll have the project manager figure out your deposit for the tax tomorrow when they come in, Monday when they come in, but I do need to get the survey fee. I'm accountable for that at the end of the survey. Is it possible to get a check for that now? And they'll usually say yes, no problem. Okay. And so I collect that, and then I'm going to make a copy of the working agreement, a copy of the 10 commitments for the client, and then I'm going to give them the consulting services questions and answers. This is in your opening documents in STS, and you'll get some hard copies in your FedEx. Okay, then the other thing you're going to do is part of your transition work is the project manager information letter. And it's going to describe, so this is so when you get a go ahead, first of all, you're going to do your project manager information letter, and you'll email that to your project manager and copy to your SSD. Okay, so the night before, the business night before the go starts, you're going to get the name and contact information for your project manager. The project manager will call you sometime before your go starts. It'll either be that evening, over the weekend, if it's a weekend, or early Monday morning, whatever. Okay, and they'll get kind of the lay of the land with you. So, so that we have a good pass the baton. So I always spent a fair bit of time doing notes because I figured the more information they have, the better. The contents of the file that we have, like your financials, I print those, I put them in the file that I have, the job file, the client's homework, etc. All of that goes and it gets sent down to consulting to the consulting services director to manage your go with the project manager and consultant. So that we have a good transition. So you're going to fill this out. So you can either do this at the client or you could do it at the airport, but you need to do it and be prepared to send it that evening when the email comes out. Okay, and just to show you on here, so when you get your go with your findings, send in authorized agreements, front and back, well, it says front and back, because we used to, with the printed agreements, it would be front and back. Copy of the survey fee and copy of any deposits for the go. Call for traffic. Don't leave the client without calling in, because you want to make sure everything's in order before you leave. Give the client a copy of the authorized agreements along with the consulting services Q&A. If the client doesn't pay the fee, then we get a non-payment of survey fee report filled out. Make sure you speak to your SSD before you leave. Okay, you don't just leave. Speak to your SSD. Because if there's any questions we have to find out, or clarifications or adjustments that have to be made, that's when that's going to happen. So don't leave. Okay, you can go to your car, but don't leave. And then I'll talk about survey fees this afternoon. Okay, so that's the findings. Does that help kind of tie things together a little bit? It should make more sense now. It should make more sense as to the work that you do and why you do it. It's coming together, yeah. Yeah, it should make a lot more sense now. The findings are, well, yeah, you should get agreement in your opening, but the findings is when you get it's the close. And I mean, that's where it is. But this should confirm what you already have agreement to. It shouldn't be a whole bunch of new information and surprise to the client. You're certain the phone calls next week will be a bit longer in the beginning. Absolutely, that's a fact. Yeah, you're going to definitely have to rely on my help next week. That's right. And that's why next week, you're going to want to use your checklist for the simple things like what forms do I print, and call in for a strategy and that sort of thing. Right. Yeah, we'll talk about that. But absolutely, I would expect that, because we want to get goes next week. You guys can get goes. Okay, so that's the findings. So I send in copies. Good. Ryan wants goes. I want goes too. You worked hard. You want to get goes. Absolutely. And you can get goes. Interestingly, I will tell you something. It's kind of interesting. Okay, you can get goes with this. Okay, and if the people that run into trouble are the ones that start to do it their own way, that think they know better. And you could be really smart and think you know better, and you skip the clicks, like I said, do not do, and you try to sell consulting when you walk in the door. It doesn't work. If you can go through the process and condition and get agreement and get the client to do the homework and challenge them, I'm telling you, you can get a go. Okay. Now, so depending on the type of survey you go to, some of you may go to resurveys, some of you may go to former clients. It doesn't matter. You still need to know how to run a survey. You will get new surveys whenever, but you got to go through the paces of this thing, okay? Because that's when the client is solid. It is solid, and you never know. You do not know what the end result's going to be until the end. Okay, I'm going to tell you. On my first day, I've had meetings, and I thought, I am cooked. I'm not going to get a go. Okay, and I go in the next day, and I didn't realize how much control I had. And I go through my findings, and all of a sudden the owner said, well, what's next? I need help. And I'm like, you're kidding. I mean, they had such a poker face that it was absolutely shocking. So I have been absolutely floored sometimes. I'm the one that fell on the floor, not them. Okay, because I was so shocked because I had no idea I would get a go. Other times I was so sure I would get a go, and I went in and I got a no-go. And I'm like, what the heck? Well, what happened was I didn't condition enough. I didn't listen to what they wanted. I didn't figure out what was going to motivate them. I missed something. That's what happened. As soon as I remember a couple times when I heard they had so many problems, and I just said automatically, well, that's a go. And it wasn't. So, so you never really know. So you have to go through the process. You have a much better shot at getting a go if you go through. You have a shot at getting a go if you go through the process. If you skip it, you don't. So anyway, so that's it. Now your reports are going to vary depending on the client. I will help you with those next week, etc. So. Will the 2 case studies remain in your STS for your review? Yeah, they should. Yep, they should for sure. I will send you a copy of my findings, and there is similar findings in the quick reference that I'm going to send to you. There's a similar findings that I will send that will be in your quick reference. So you'll have at least something to refer to, and then I'll go through that this afternoon. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so why don't we break for lunch? And we'll break for lunch. I'll see you back here in an hour. And then we'll talk about travel, admin stuff. I'm going to go through the quick reference. I'm going to show you some things like in the library and that sort of thing. So more fun ahead. Okay, so I'll see you back here in an hour.